Hey guys, Thomas the Silver Jr. here, aka Mustache Tom, here to review the movie Digimon 02, The Beginning. If you end up enjoying this full movie review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description and want to head over to my petition to help out smaller YouTubers. Stick it out there to my Patreon and PayPal, which can help support me and my channel directly, and fourth to my Discord server, where we can join, collab, and chill, and do all of that cool stuff. So, I find myself relatively lucky that my theater was one of the ones showing Digimon 02 in English, as it did come with this Digimon card pack here. I have yet to open, so I figured before my review, I might as well open this now, untapped, unrevealed, but revealed now for you guys, the people watching at the home. So here we go. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to gain access to these. Let's see. Hold on, I gotta go off screen for a bit. Alright. Sorry about that. So we're going to see what we've unveiled here. Let's see. We have 3 cards, it looks like. We have a Cody Hida card. Probably can't see it that well. There you go. It's like a nice, like, silvery color. So as a little dialogue here. Let's see what this says. Start of your main phase. Oh, so this is like a part of like the Digimon like card battle thing. So I actually won't read that. Okay. So I don't know anything about the Digimon card battle. We have a Gatomon. Nice. Nice yellow. And last but not least, we have a Hawkmon. So those 2 armor did evolve in their champion forms. Gatomon does with Hawkmon's Digivolution. Unfortunately, didn't get my favorite Digimon, but I digress. It's fine. Couldn't get the best boy Vmon, but hey, I do appreciate some free cards with the experience. Anyway, we're here to focus on the review and reviewing it still as objectively as conceivably possible. Now, that in combination with, I'm not gonna lie, I've also been a fan of Digimon ever since I was a kid growing up. So, I will not even deny that I already have a bias going into Digimon, as well as Digimon Season 2, with Vmon being my favorite Digimon. I've said that on my channel several times now, and I will continue to maintain that position as far as personal favorite Digimon is concerned. With that, we follow a new adventure called The Beginning, which I won't deny, based off of the content, probably wasn't the best title they came up with, if I'm being completely honest, since it seems to follow after their adventures in Digimon Season 2, but before the time skip. In fact, this seems to take 2 years, based on the little Wikipedia thing, 2 years past the point of the end result of their final fight in Digimon Season 2, but again, before the flash forward. So, we are seeing, right out of the gate, we are introduced in Japan with this giant digital egg that everyone just sees, and no one really knows what's going on. People are like, what's going on? They can all see it. It's there. I guess no one investigated it or tried to attack it, I guess, or whatever. Uh, I don't know, but point being, it's there, it's present, we're dealing with that now. And as is apparently a new tradition, is that all of the tamers and Digimon gather up in Davis's new noodle shop, as he does run one with his partner Vemon, our best boy, or my best boy anyway. So this is their meeting place where they generally get together. It seems like they keep things on the regular here. And they get a report from that, seeing this digital egg, and grow rather suspicious of what that whole deal even is. In conjunction with that, we have our few Digimon talking, and I will say in the audience, for those familiar with Digimon Season 2, the moment that Armadillomon spoke, because this was remember, this is in English, his English voice was terrible. I'm just not gonna lie. It was very off-putting. It sounded like someone was more so trying to do a an off-put version of like a Guilmon or something. That's what Armadillomon sounded like in this continuation. So I think that the Japanese team should have made contact with the U.S. team and been like, hey, the U.S. actor passed away, unfortunately, but we do got to get a replacement. Make sure, you keep it, you find someone that can at least do an impersonation that's close to Armadillomon, so that it's not like the most off-putting voice you hear coming from a Digimon you, as fans would come to expect, would have a more Texas drawl to his voice. Now, I'm no voice expert by any means. I mean, I do my very poor impressions of Vemon and Agumon and Gubmon, and those are just really terrible. And I can do Impmon and Guilmon and all that good stuff too. Now, Armadillomon, admittedly for me, is a bit challenging. I'm pretty sure I can't do a Texas drawl as well as I probably could if I trained in it in any capacity. But I remember it kind of sounded like Armadillomon, like a little higher than that, but still with that Texas drawl in it. So I don't know, just again, getting at least someone who can impersonate that, what I just did, but better. Because I assume that they're, considering this is called the beginning, quote unquote, that there will be continuing adventures with the Tamers, which would necessitate more Digimon voice acting, so they probably would want to get on that. At any rate, with that being said, we have to move on. So with this confrontation, they come across because they're watching the news, they see a kid with a Digivice, and they spot it like as if the camera's like magnifying in it. So I will say that is a little bit of a convenience, or a super one if that. But with that in mind, they head over, and now, as they have determined, a Digi-destined, as it were, as they tend to still call it these days, is up there climbing this tower, and he proceeds to fall. So they have their Digimon and Pilgrimon swoop on over and catch him before he can fall any further. So they carry him over, and they proceed to try to figure out what his deal was. And he seems to have a very differing attitude than probably most other tamers we have come to seen from Digimon. So I was interested to see what they would do with a new Digimon character here. Now, here's a reveal no, I'm gonna wait because this will contain a spoiler alert. If you had any plans of watching Digimon, I'd recommend stop watching past this point because all the stuff I'm mentioning probably wouldn't be considered spoilers at this point. But what I'm about to address will be heavy and deep in the spoilers. So, with that moving forward, what we have is he reveals, or rather, what they reveal through them falling through the egg digital space is that they're shunted back into the past. Now, granted, I have said before that I'm usually not a fan of terrible time travel shenanigans, and it can be done right, but, you know, multiverse stuff has definitely been very questionable. So I was already being like, okay, what are they gonna do here? Now, granted, they use this as to serve as exposition to share towards the others in this new character, whose name I didn't write down for the life of me, and I should have. Point being is that he is apparently, in accordance to this flashback, the first Digimon tamer, or the first human to come in contact with a Digimon. Now, what had been established up until this point is that would have seemingly have been Tai, but that is incorrect. At least in the video game version, we know that to be true. Because even in Digimon World 1, they make reference to... Now, I'm not sure if this is in reference to Digimon Season 1, but they had claimed that there were tamers before the first game. So, there were very likely tamers before Tai, is sort of the implication here. And in fact, him, again, just being the real first one. And there even seemed to be implications in the original show that seemed to sort of suggest that that would have been possible anyway. So it turns out that we do see this flashback, and we even do see young Kairi and Tai going up those stairs like in vintage mode, getting ready to go home. And then we follow that new main character, and we proceed to follow him as we see his story play out. And I will say, my goodness gracious, was I not expecting this backstory? So it turns out that Digimon has maintained its dark level of darkness after all this time. It has not lost that whatsoever, and in fact, he's like 4 years old in this flashback. It's just his birthday, as it would turn out, and he's like watching TV or whatever, and he's like excited and young and just sitting there and enjoying his programming or whatever. But he wets himself, unfortunately. Now, I'm no expert on this, but I don't know what age, is associated when you typically stop doing that, and I know that there are certain instances where that can happen even later on due to some phobias or like conditions or stuff like that. So I know that that is conceivable, so I'm assuming that that's what they're hinting toward at the very most. And in fact, they even imply even further through the character acting and not outright saying it, is that the mother is dealing with some sort of bipolar disorder, as she seems very kindly and gentle in a moment, and then when this event occurs, she like outright just in a abrupt fashion abuses him and literally like shoves him outside. And we also know in this flashback that his father is bedridden due to some, I'm gonna assume, injury or sickness or illness that has left him essentially like life support, essentially. So yeah, dark, as one would come to expect from Digimon. So this kid, his young life, 4 years old, not doing particularly great. And as I am going through this, I'm on my phone, and I'm gonna see if I can gain access to like a little Wikipedia and see if I can figure out this kid's name while kind of going through that. But in the meanwhile, while he's outside in the cold, by the way, just to make matters even worse on him, he turns to his left and spots a Digi-Egg. And thusly, the Digi-Egg eventually hatches. Let me prompt in new character. Let's see what happens. Oh yes, now I remember. His name was Lou. Our first Digimon tamer, and Okamon is his Digimon that is revealed here. So Lou, here, sees this Okamon appear, and for all intents and purposes has a cute design, and a very cute outlook in life. With this being Digimon, and with what I'm about to say next, he's the antagonist of the movie. Should probably tempt you to now know, oh no, this is gonna go places, isn't it? And the answer is yes. Yes, it is. So yes, this Okamon prompts Lou to a wish. Or rather, Lou just wishes to have more friends, to be accepted as a little 4-year-old boy and have friends and, you know, be social and have friends and all that. So, this Digimon, Okamon, applies that it will do so. And in accordance with that, it's almost as if by magic, and I'm not going to say that that's actually the answer, I'm more actually implying that the Digimon was more likely responsible, or maybe even the mom's bipolar anger subsided. Either one of those two could be the outcome of her coming back outside and checking in and being like, hey, are you alright? Come in, you're cold, and stuff like that. So, at first, and by the way, this is happening on his birthday, which seems to be a consistent thing throughout the movie. So, the Digimon celebrates his birthday, Lou, being 4 years old on a leap year. So, the way they describe a leap year, I forget how this works, because I forget how leap years work. It's like, he describes it as like 4 year, like in a 4-year time frame, they like celebrate a extra birthday or a birthday in general or whatever. Something along those lines. Anyway, point being is that this Okamon is here to provide Lou with his wish. And sure enough, in the next birthday sequence, he is now surrounded by a few friends and his parents who are now happy, and his father's better as well, apparently, in accordance. No, that I do truly believe was the Digimon's doing, if nothing else. And in accordance when the news is on, and he's now continuously watching it, and he sees the battle from the first Digimon movie, if I remember this correctly, or some previous Digimon event. The Digimon explains is that these are your friends. I made your friends like I made all these other Digimon, and you can have Digimon partnered friends because that's what I figured you would want. And he's like, I didn't ask for that. I just wanted friends. So a very poor miscommunication by the two that has allotted more trepidation that is about to unfortunately ensue. After that, and not shortly after that, like a few minutes later, we hear a collapsing, and we see young Lu rush over to see both his parents have now collapsed. I'm assuming the father's lifespan has now ceased, like permanently. He's now passed away, as well as the mother, which I'm not sure what would have led her to be deceased, but unfortunately, that is just how these things sometimes roll, I suppose. But I digress. What happens next is that Okamon, seeing how this is making Lu upset, that his parents are now dead and he's a 4-year-old orphan, proceeds to puppeteer his parents back to life, and that freaks him out. Because, yeah, I mean, losing your parents is enough of a freak out, so having them being puppeteered only moments later is kind of doubly traumatizing, if anything. And on top of making all of these other things, like all the other Digimon in accordance to him anyway, Lu rages out, saying that that's not what he wanted at all, and this is wrong as well, and proceeds to take out his Digivice, and with a bat in hand, he grabs a bat. Now, I first thought when he was grabbing it that he was going to attempt to swing at Okamon, the Digimon. No, he places the Digivice on, like, a high counter type, and with a overhand swing, he proceeds to try to swing the Digivice and break it. Now, he swings more than once. And unfortunately, during the third swing, yes, things are about to get worse for him, the Digivice chucks into the air and it clashes into his left eye, causing it to fall out completely. So he loses his eye due to what he just did. And, to make matters even creepier, I suppose, or just maintaining the creep factor, is that Okamon's like, oh no, you're injured, let me offer you my digital eye, proceeds to take it out like it's nothing, and give it to Lu, and insert it into him, and now he has a Digimon eye. It looks off-putting, to say the least. With that being said, we have him breaking off his relationship with this Digimon, being like, you know, I didn't want this, I don't want you. So, in accordance to the continuation of this just onslaught of, like, messed upness, his Digimon, after just doing that, proceeds to melt and die itself. Like, friendly reminder, he's like 4 years old. Like, Jesus Christ, talking about traumatizing your kids. And by the way, yes, there were kids in the theater, by the way. So yeah, you know, for family movie. Anyway. So after he's done with that flashback, we got some of it through the egg, and then we get the rest of it through him, because the rest of the Tamers are curious on how what was seemingly something innocent turned so terrible. Now, he had assumed once he had done that he had killed his Digimon. Now, we of long-time fandom of Digimon would already know that Digimon do inevitably come back. And that seems to be the precursor to this egg situation that has been developing. And they come to the conclusion, once this egg begins to move and hatch, it turns out that the event this takes place on is, once again, his birthday. And, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised that he legitimately forgot, because the way he just says it, he's like, oh, my birthday, like, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. If your birthday was that traumatizing, I'd be like, yeah, I would probably want to forget when my birthday is, kind of being honest with you. So yeah, I don't blame that at all on him. So I completely understood that moment. Anyway, point being is that this Digimon is hatching. It's the reincarnation of Okamon, and it is living up to its promise of that wish, that initial wish, to bring even more Digimon to humans to include more friends in that way. Now, this was a thing that forms into like a tree-like figure with a bunch of digi eggs hanging out of it. And in accordance, apparently there were enough digi eggs for each human being on planet Earth. Or at least Japan, I don't know. But, yeah, still a lot. And considering that there are bad people on Earth, on top of being evil Digimon, I mean, it kind of spells out a really terrible disaster just waiting to happen. So the Digimon and Tamers are trying to figure out what to do. But they come into conflict when they truly begin to believe if they erase Okamon, sort of now this new inception of where these Digimon even came from, or wished to be real or whatever. Now that that has been established, if you remove that, will the Digimon be removed in kind? And to do that to 60, apparently 60 other tamers have now developed Digimon and partnerships with said Digimon. But they talked it out and they came to the conclusion of like, yeah, the 1 million or billion or whatever our population currently is way more important, obviously, but we also still recognize that, yeah, it's going to be an emotional time for us. It's like, yeah, they recognize both sides of the argument, and I actually really like that scene. I mean, just the thoughtfulness of it, of like bringing up like, yeah, they're gonna do the adult thing, but they know deep down that it's potentially gonna hurt them in the long run, or relatively in the short run, actually, if anything. And continue moving past that point. But they come to an interesting little interval where they're like, okay, hold on, let's see if we can just talk. And I'm not joking when I say, oh my god, thank you for doing this, because I am so sick of the cliche of two characters are about to do their thing, and they could just talk to, figure stuff out, and it's like, well, the time just passes, or someone interrupts, or something happens, something gets in the way, and there's just not a lot of that opportunity. So I'm so grateful that Digimon and the writers decided to not hit that cliche, because god, I hate it so much. So they do decide to have Louis go up there and proceed to talk to Okamon, and their talk is as expected. They reach a neutral understanding that they did not have a strong understanding, and that was even implied earlier in the movie where they were saying like he was trying his best, and in a, you kind of didn't. I mean, he was 4 years old, but you didn't, see what he wanted in kind. So sort of a one-sided relationship was established there. So yeah, there was, and again, that allotted to that lack of communication and rushing towards that wish on top of all of that. But, I mean, it's completely understandable for his circumstances, all things considered. So, it all comes to the cultivation, but this current incarnation, and they both recognize this, and they don't even have to say it. It's like, it literally cuts just before it's like, you know what you need to do, and then it cuts. So, we as the audience also know what he's about to say. Is like, yeah, we gotta defeat this incarnation of this Digimon who still has the eggs coming out, because that's still going to spell out disaster for the entire world. If that many Digimon are just unleashed without any sense of, like, picking out the right tamer for the right Digimon and all that stuff, that figures itself out, I guess. Anyway, point being is that we get our main battle. And by the way, I skimped out on all of this, and there were comedic bits strewn throughout the movie. Quite a few moments of pure comedy gold. From when there's this moment where, like, Davis and Ken are, like, arguing about what to do, and they're, like, in Pyojamon, and then Yuli, and they all have comms, by the way, which, thank God for that. Like, they actually establish, like, they have a way of communicating with each other. They have this bit where they're, like, arguing, and then Yuli's like, are you two, like, flirting with each other? And I was like, oh my god, they actually acknowledged in canon that she would totally be, even though she's, like, totally dating Ken, or wanting to at this point in stage in her relationship with Ken, she would also be simultaneously the girl to write fan fiction about those two ending up in a yaoi relationship. She totally would be that character. So that just comes across as so funny that she's the one who's, like, laying that out. Furthermore, there's this running gag between Davis and TK, or I think it's primarily TK, but that being that Davis, whenever they intervene with the egg or processing what their Digimon are doing, and then having the police come and being like, and Davis is like, how do they figure out what's going on? And then it's like, it'd be weird if they, and then TK replying, and this happens like twice in the movie, it'd be weird if they didn't find out. And I'm paraphrasing, but they did it in a more comical way, obviously. And it's very keen on the voice acting on top of just the timing, too. So I just wanted to establish that I did not do the joke any justice. So yeah, there are little bits here and there thrown in for comic relief as well. There's the part where, like, Veemon and Davis are explaining friendship, and the way he just does, the Veemon just does it is by just a handshake. Like, so, something so childishly simple, and yet it's like, yeah, I mean, he would kind of, I suppose, reach that conclusion. One thing I'm so frustrated about, especially with this being Digimon 02, is that there was no scene, and I think they should have totally went for it. With the amount of time that has passed, I totally think they should have hit on the whole Veemon having a crush on Gatomon thing and totally sandbagging it or mocking it or something. I don't know, like, give that a little bit of that fan service too again. You did it the one time, and I greatly appreciated it as a fan of that coupling, I suppose I would call it, even though I don't even know if they couple officially by any regards. But I don't know. I always found that little bit, that one episode moment, really cute and funny, and, like, I wish there was a bit more of the relationship stuff with Digimon happening between Digimon and other Digimon in that way. Because the whole thing is about, like, Digimon have feelings, and, you know, I want them to explore that, even if it's an occupation of love, because that is, like, if not one of the core values to humanity, if anything, I suppose. So I would, again, love to see it more so in Digimon as well, being presented in that way. In an understandable way, not like, you know, they don't have to, like, overdo it by any stretch of the imagination. I even suggested, like, totally sandbagging it, but bringing it up anyway. So I don't know, something, right? Anyway, point being is that Tolui and Okomon come to the conclusion is like, yeah, you gotta defeat this incarnation of me. Digimon reset anyways. You already knew that. I already know that. You do you, man. So they he heads out. The Digimon all do their DNA digivolutions together. They fight off these tentacle things that are like attached to him. And of course, with Impildramon being like the lead of the trio DNA squad, gets the final strike with his Positron laser, whatever his move is called these days. And thus he's evaporated into the ether, and so too are the several eggs that were about to be set upon the human world. Now, what happens next is even more fascinating, I suppose, in terms of what they were trying to communicate. They have all the Digivices in the world, by the way, glow. Now, this is where things just, again, get really interesting, because I'm not sure what they are going to do next now that they've done this. They proceed to have all of the Digivices vanish. And they're like, yeah, we appreciate what these Digivices allowed us to do. It's time to say goodbye. But, despite the Digivices disappearing, the Digimon themselves remain, which I was like, huh. I was not expecting that at all. Like, consider me completely, like, subversion? Like, absolutely. And I'm like, okay. That was a bit of a twist in itself. I wasn't expecting that to happen, but okay. Again, with it being called The Beginning, I'm not really... I'm assuming that there's going to be more of O2 happening, right? And of course, with that farewell, as typical Digimon fashion, that is the end of the movie. Well, I mean, there is a mini after credit sequence where we see the egg there in his hand, and of course the last frame of the movie in this post-credit sequence is the egg squirming as if he's ready to hatch once again. And I suppose it does bring up a weird question that I never really thought about. When a Digimon dies, its memories are like reset with it, right? I'm assuming that's the case, or maybe if you had a bond with a human, that's maintained. I'm not really sure how that particularly works, but I digress. I really enjoyed Digimon O2 The Beginning. I think that this was a really solid movie. Great comedic timing. Not a lot of combat, which, hey, there was the Just Talk moment, which I'm a great fan of, and there was the action sequence. So I actually really appreciate the minimalistic approach to their of this story that they decided to tell, in really focusing on this new character and really building up the first tamer in Louis to be this downtrodden kid that just had a terrible birthday experience, one bad day, and it resulted in a wish that just went terribly, terribly wrong. And after all of that time, he had to come back and be like, well, gotta get rid of that wish. That wish was poorly constructed, and it's not something that has led to anything good. So let's deal with that now. So yeah, I really appreciate this movie in sort of tackling these continuously darker themes with a little bit of creepy imagery. I'm not even gonna lie, like the moment that Okamon like is dissipating, it's just like a blobby, like there's like a horror vibe to the entire sequence where his flashback is happening. And I'm totally down for all of that sequence. It's just absolutely Digimon Season 3 end vibes. But just condensed in a nice little bottle, if I were to compare. At any rate, so in terms of new Digimon content that I would still love to see explored, one Digimon idea that I've been wanting to see for quite a while now. I would still love to see a new Digimon story where we follow perhaps even a few Digimon, like 2 or 3 max. So keep it relatively small. And have them not have human tamers at the beginning of the show. In fact, the entire premise is them finding tamers. I think that would make for a pretty easy premise and for a really cute show on top of that. And even again, I'm sure they could find a way to maintain the darker themes even within that context, surely. So that's something I would definitely want to see explored at some point, as well as what a Digimon does if it lives long enough and its human partner dies. Does the Digimon itself also like turn into data permanently? I mean, they rebirth, so I'm not sure what that process is. Like, do they like hard reset? Perhaps. I'm not really entirely sure what happens to a Digimon when that happens, so that'd be something I'd be willing to see explored. And the last thing, in terms of a future antagonist, perhaps, I think it'd be really interesting to get a Digimon that can do a little bit of mimicry involved, that being the capacity to turn into other Digimon. And maybe that can be a part of that character's exploration, is that like it's almost doing it in a mockery sort of way, at least initially at first, and then it's like and then afterwards the whole development of this can be like, then it genuinely wants to discover what type of Digimon it wants to be. Like, it doesn't have to be a super evil Digimon, but more, again, antagonistic. I think that level of arc would be a fascinating one to watch. And again, in terms of the whole Armadillomon thing, yeah, I would just say hire a new English voice actor. Unfortunately, that one just didn't quite cut it. Again, if they're going to continue Digimon Season 02, whatever the future movie or series they're planning on next, definitely recast Armadillomon there, because his voice does not match whatsoever with what people were expecting, especially fans, so that's something that should at least be addressed. In terms of a score, though, I will say that I was particularly engaged throughout. And yeah, this definitely proves that you don't need that many action sequences to deliver on a Digimon story. This was severely light on it, and yet I was completely captivated by the story that they were telling here. So yeah, definitely really recommend that. Would give this a 8 out of 10 in that regard. I really think that they handled it fairly well. A lot of the writing is like heavily implication and not, spoon feeding the audience its answers. Really reconciling in the darker themes as one would expect of earlier Digimon content, and like really just leaving it in a mature fashion in that regard as well, having the comedy moments not like too close to that, though, that they feel like they're not, like the pacing is like off in any way. Like the moments that the comedy bits are happening are like when there's very like light into action, or just like there's sort of nothing going on, or like just casual banter, sort of like when again just things are sort of on the up and up. So I think that they completely understood the tempo and pacing of like in transition between drama and darker themes and comedy for this special or movie, as well as how to maintain its action in a sequence. So yeah, definitely very fulfilling. This movie is not going to be here for long, from what I saw in the thing. So if you haven't seen it, see it tomorrow. I think that's like the end date, like on the 9th, which is when this video is being posted anyway, so sorry if you missed it. Especially if you're a fan of Digimon. But yeah, would definitely catch it later if you can. Because I, again, highly recommend it. And that's my full review of Digimon 02, The Beginning. And if you ended up enjoying it, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my petition to help out smaller YouTubers. Second and third to my Patreon and PayPal, where you can help support me and my channel directly. And fourth to my Discord server, you can join, collab, and chill, and all that cool stuff. And until next time, everybody, bye-bye!